please help my mother.
This isn't consistent with any form of possession that I've ever seen. I'm sorry, Isabella. This...
What the hell's going on? What do we do?
I don't know!
Let my mother go.
You'll burn.
Welcome back to the 31 Days of Spooks. My name is Dylan Goebel, and today we're talking about The Devil Inside, released in 2012. It was directed by William Brent Bell, and it tells the story of a woman in Italy who becomes involved in a series of unauthorized exorcisms in her journey to find out what happened to her mother, who allegedly murdered 3 people during her own exorcism. Okay, The Devil Inside. Okay, I might be the first person to review this movie in years, but I decided to put it in my 31 Days of Spooks lineup, so here we are. What I'm about to say about this movie might be a bit of a repeat on what other people said in their reviews, but there's really not a whole lot to say about The Devil Inside other than that it is absolute trash. This is one of the worst horror films ever made, especially in the found footage genre, and the found footage genre is definitely not slim pickings when it comes to bad movies. Let me tell you. I mean, I already reviewed one earlier this month, The Blair Witch Project, but everyone loves that movie for some reason. At least nobody likes this one. If I were to say any positives about The Devil Inside, there's a couple of cool exorcism scenes. And when I mean cool, I mean there's some nice gruesome imagery sometimes. That's about it. This movie is awful. The acting is terrible. The story is lacking, to say the least. Like, it sounds like it has an interesting plot, but really it's just going around and watching a few exorcisms once in a while. That's all this movie really is. I will say the movie has a pretty atmospheric opening scene. And after that, it is just been there, done that, exorcism scenes, boring dialogue sequences. That's it. That is all this movie has to offer. It is bullshit. And for a movie that's an hour and 22 minutes, this movie feels like at least 2.5 hours. Whenever there's not any exorcism scenes, which are few and far between, this movie is boring. Really fucking boring. Like, god damn. When that shit goes on, the dialogue, it almost feels like a fucking cinematic equivalent to a sleeping pill. I'm not going to say NyQuil because that's an overused quote. There we go. And here's the thing that the movie is the most famous for. This movie is famous for its notorious ending. And I say ending lightly because this movie does not have one. What this movie does is have a vehicle get involved in a collision. It cuts to black, and it gives you a link to a website to tell you, and this website is supposed to tell you the end of the story. Man, I'm so happy I never saw this in theaters, because at least I never got robbed of my money. I mean, I have the Blu-ray for this movie, and I only paid like $1 for it. And trust me, paying $1 for this movie in physical form is definitely not as bad as paying whatever the fucking movie ticket cost back in 2012. Oh, so there's that. The ending is a joke. It's like the movie was trolling you. And the sad thing is, The website that this movie gives you a link for is no longer active, so you'll never know how this movie ends unless you ask someone who has seen that site and they remember the ending of this movie. So, yeah, this basically, in the end, this movie was just a gigantic waste of time. So, besides an atmospheric opening scene and a couple of nice gruesome imagery and some exorcism scenes, this movie has nothing to offer. It's boring, it's insulting. It doesn't even end, it just stops. So really, what is there to recommend in The Devil Inside? Absolutely nothing. I am going to give The Devil Inside an F.